You're listening to Under the Shell Podcast, the best in America.
Welcome to Under the Shell, presented by Testudo Times. I'm Brendan Weissel.
Sam Jane.
Michael House.
And let's get into the show.
Our next guest is a former standout offensive lineman for the Terps and a reigning USFL champion with the Birmingham Stallions. We got on D. Gray this week. Welcome on, D.
Man, I appreciate y'all boys having me, man. Always love messing with my Terps, man.
So a little bit funny story about us and D. We saw last week, so D just started his own podcast called Under the Shell. We were like, whoa. So that's kind of how we got into contact with him. But now he is hosting the Protect the Shell podcast. Am I right? That's the new name?
Yes, the new name, man. And it's funny, man. Every time I see you guys, I was telling my guy, man, he's about to be sitting on the couch soon in my house, but I was telling him, man, it's funny how we met, man. It's like, man, I started my podcast on the Believe Network, man. It's a big network, man. And I had no idea, and they recommended the name, and I was like, cool. So it was like, first of all, I never had no idea I was going to do any Maryland show, man. I thought I was going to stick to doing like NFL shows and stuff like that. And it was like, how would you like covering your alma mater in Maryland? I was like, I never thought of it. I was like, sure, why not? And I was like, oh, well, time to start doing Maryland thing. And I said, well, do you have a name for me? He's like, Under the Shell. I was like, cool, that sounds great. Let's do it. And then we was going forth with it. And then I see you guys' tweet, like, after I already put content. I didn't see it at first. I already seen I put content. Everybody was flooding that post, like, congratulations, blah, blah, blah. And then I seen you guys the next day, and I was like, this looks a little interesting. Like, I wonder who these people are. And then I asked one of the producers and stuff at the network, I was like, we might run into an issue. And he's like, man, it's funny you say that. We got an email from the guy saying that we have the same name, something got to be changed here. And I was like, man, no sweat, man. Good thing they waited. The good thing they didn't wait till it blew up to say, hey, bro, that's our show. That would have been terrible. But you guys up front, man, was nice about it. I was like, man, I don't care, man. I changed the name. It don't matter.
Was doing a podcast in like sports media, like post-playing and during your playing career, something you were always kind of interested in doing?
Yeah, man. So when I went to Maryland, man, I was always interested in doing sports talk or some type of podcast. Not really say I wanted to do podcasting, because back then I would say podcasting the way we do now, like how's the video and podcasting wasn't really that. Podcast is literally just strictly audio back then, and now it's kind of transformed into more of a TV type setting, you know what I mean? Like a kind of a show setting. And I never really wanted to do that just strictly podcast. I wanted to do kind of like TV hosting, doing like ESPNs and sports, and I always wanted to do those type of things. You know how it is, bro. Growing up in high school, you could talk sports all day, bro. I'm like, we could all laugh and say who the better player, who's better, Mike Jordan or LeBron, or who's the best quarterback, Peyton Manning or Tom. We could yell about this for hours, bro. And it was like, well, why not go to school and actually do it the right way and get paid to do it? You know what I mean? So that was kind of my mindset. Like, man, one day, man, I'm done playing ball, bro. I'm going to go to sports talk. And then podcasts started booming. It started moving up. And I was like, well, to start things off, why would I just go to a podcaster? So I've been podcasting for about 5 years now. And I have my own podcast besides Protect the Shell called Top Tier Topics, where I put a lot of my teammates on there, like I played with in the USFL or I played with in Pittsburgh. I mean, it's been great, man. And also I do another podcast with a co-host out in Pittsburgh called 3 Point Stance as well. So, yeah.
Did you start getting any of that experience in college? What was your major, and kind of how did you kind of, take, obviously had all the football knowledge, but how did you kind of translate that over into some of the media stuff?
When I left, like I said, when I left Maryland, I played ball and I focused on ball, but I knew in the back of my mind I wanted to do this. And it's a tricky game when you're trying to get into the media world, because it's got guys like you guys. I'm pretty sure you study communications journalism right now. Same thing I study. And it's like, it's really tricky, because it's like, it's guys out here that study this 24/7. And it's guys like me that play football that think that, okay, could we study it, that we should be able to walk right into it. But it's really hard to get into these type of things because it's so competitive, man. Everyone that plays the game of football wants to lead the game and go right to the set. You know what I mean? You have guys like yourself that never probably ever played a down of football, but can literally write great articles, can talk great about football. You know what I mean? And some of the guys that's great at sports talk never played the game. You know what I mean? And it's just a competitive world, man. And how I got into it was just connecting with people and networking and continue to do broadcasting. Like right now I do broadcast for high school football in Jacksonville. In Tampa, Florida, sorry. And I do that every Friday, man. I go down there and I report live there and then talk about some of the high school players that's committed to Alabama, things like that. And to continue to expand your broad and your value as a sports talker, man. And so that's kind of how I be able to connect with these people.
What's it been like doing a lot of the media stuff while also playing football, you know, covering high school games, but also continuing to play football yourself?
It's funny, man, because at the USFL, man, and you know, USFL, that's actually a great question. But the USFL is teamed up with Fox. So, you know, who covers USFL games is always on Fox Network and doing like training camp. And everywhere I go, I always talk about podcasts. And it was like, well, that's kind of weird, bro. Like, when we're hearing about too many people at podcasts, like football players that actually just walk around to my podcast. Because I know at some point football is going to end. And you got to be prepared to set yourself up after that. Like I really believe in the slogan, closed mouths don't get fed. And my thing is, if you guys right now don't let people know about Under the Shell or let them know how much you're passionate about this podcast, how will anyone know that you guys one day want to be top journalists in the world? They'll never know because you just keep it a secret. And I would encourage you guys, like, as you continue to finish school, to continue to get that out there, man. We love this stuff, man, and we want to be great at this and let people understand that's in that field, that's done it harder you got, that you want to be where they are one day or better. And that's kind of why I am, man. Everywhere I go, like, people that maybe know how to edit better than me. I might sit at the USFL, I set beside the people that do the NFL on Fox. Her name was Madison Pricer or something like that on Instagram. And every day I would just watch her after practice. I would go down there and I would eat my little food, my Subway after practice, and I would sit there at the table and watch her make edits and cut-ups. And I'd be like, well, how are you doing this? Well, it's something called Photoshop. Well, we all know that, but it's a little more deeper than Photoshop. The things she was doing, she was making pictures look like it was going together. I was like, what is all this stuff? She's like, yeah, it's been a long time in school learning how to do this digital stuff. And then there was another guy that was a freelancer for Fox. He does more of the After Effects stuff. And I was like, what is After Effects? He said, well, you know, on ESPN, how they be talking, and before you know it, a coach face would just slide across the screen for a second, and they be having like a ticker right there, and it goes away. All that is kind of something called After Effects. So I'm sitting there learning everything to increase my value to bring to the table to a network to say, well, I know how to do this, I know how to do that, as well as playing a game of sports. I bring more than just an athlete, you know what I mean? So that's kind of how I able, like, on the time of playing USFL and balancing this out, was just showing importance to the people that's in the media field around me that this is something I love to do outside of the game of football. And they know how passionate I was on the field. And every day it'd be like crazy for them, mind blowing, that they'd be like, bro, how are you so crazy and dog on the field? And then you come off, you just such a delightful guy. And it's like, hey, can you teach me this about podcasting? Well, how do you set your mic up? Well, you know what I mean? All that, bro. So, yeah, man, I hope that answers your question. It's a lot.
I want to ask you about the 25th your first to second season at Maryland. Obviously, you know, Coach Edsall gets fired, you know, midway through the season, and Locksley was the intern at the time, was OC, so I'm sure he well as an offensive coordinator. Can you take me through what the team's reaction was when Edsall was fired? What's it like kind of in that transition phase? And then what did you learn about Locksley, you know, as a head coach in that little stretch? Because obviously he didn't have the success. So did you see the vision with him, or was it kind of like, man, he still needs some time to grow?
Well, back then, I gave Locks a pass because he came into a team with only so much he can do, meaning that he couldn't really get all the guys he wanted because he wasn't a head coach. He can't call all the shots like he is now. You know what I mean? I've loved Locks, man. Locks has been to my living room in D.C. because I'm from D.C. Locks has been to my living room several times and get me to come to Maryland, man, because I was supposed to go to Florida or Rutgers at the time. And Locks sat there, man, and you know what I mean? Me and my guy, Yannick, and told us how much we'd be pivotal players to their program. So Locke's always been a stand-up dude, up front guy, man, and kept it real, man. And he understood where we came from, understand how much this can change us by staying home, first of all. And bringing us there was probably the best thing, man, keeping us home. And Locks has always been a great motivator, man, and Locks understands, man, how to get the best out of his players. But once again, he wasn't the head coach at the time, so it was Edsall. So a lot of those guys was Edsall players that was from Connecticut, all those guys that from that Connecticut kind of area, man, he loved those type of guys. And, you know what I mean? And I wouldn't say those guys just weren't getting it done, but looking at the team now, it makes you look back and say it wasn't getting it done. You know what I mean? And Locke stepped in when Etsu first got fired. First of all, that team meeting was an awkward meeting. It was like, we knew it, but it was like, this is real, bro. Like, Etsu's getting fired, bro. Like, so it's like us players, like, what do we do now? Like, is our season over with? Do we continue to play? Like, who's our coach? Like, it's gonna be somebody on the street. It's gonna be a student. Like, who's our coach? You know what I mean? And things kind of get a little weird because it's like, you know what I mean? Like, we wasn't winning, and it's like we lose, and so it's like, well, season over with, you know what I mean? But we still was like had our own, you know what I'm saying, goals in mind that we still wanted to achieve. You know what I mean, as a player, but the team was kind of a little weird at that time. And Locks did his best, man, to try to come in and bring things together. And when Locks came in, we played hell of a good. I think that was the year when we went down and beat Rutgers, like beat them real bad down in Piscataway. I think that was played in like the last game of the season. We knew we wasn't going nowhere, like going no big bowl game or anything like that. So but we played our hearts out for Locks, you know what I mean? So Locks just knew, man, he knew how to get the best out of the play. He's a great player's coach. So to see the success right now, am I surprised? No, because he's only going to continue to get better and better every year because he understands how to recruit. If y'all don't know by now, Locks has always been one of the top recruiters in the country. Always. Every year he finds a way to get stud players, man, and you can see the type of players he getting now. Like, they starting to look like a Big Ten team. Because on my show earlier, I just dropped today with Savon Walker, we was talking about the transformation from back then to now. This team looked like a Big Ten team. Back then, we looked like an ACC team barely going into the Big Ten. And, yeah, so he's recruiting dogs, man, and he's a great coach.
I want to ask, I think that Maryland fans have seen the transition from the bottom of the barrel to now they're at the middle pack, clearly. This last weekend, obviously, kind of, I think, was a setback loss. I think that, when Maryland, Ohio State, fine, you lose on the run with the horseshoe, but to come home on homecoming and lose, not a great look. What would you say is kind of the biggest reason for that? How can they change that kind of narrative?
First of all, I would say, man, eliminate some of the unforced errors in the game, man. Eliminating some of those penalties, some of those pre-snaps penalties and things like that. Playing clean football will give you a chance. Also, man, it's crazy. I just talked about this, man. Also, just trying to help guys take care of football, man. I mean, guys like Prather, man. I love that guy, man. I mean, my first episode, Alice McKinney said he's inconsistent, and I'm like, it's something about this dude. He's giving me a feeling that he's gonna have a great year on the tail end. I mean, it's not how you start, it's how you finish, right? And Prather, man, he had a great game in my opinion, but he seems to keep putting the ball on the ground, and that's something that he has to clean up if he's gonna be a guy in this program. Also, man, I think that Talia, man, that game, man, taking sacks that's unneeded, man, like that last final drive, taking that uncostly sack like that, man, to sit you, like, bring you behind the chains like that, it makes it hard, man, for an offensive coordinator, man. For you guys as fans, man, don't understand, like, it's game plans to this things, and these play call sheets you see these coaches walking around with, this thing is scripted down to a T. Not scripted mean like TV script, like, oh, this game is fake. Scripted meaning in certain downs and distances, you have certain play calls for certain things, and that includes runs or passes. Because I know a lot of people talk about Locks running the ball on third down. They're like, why would you run the ball on third and medium, throw it? Well, like he said in his post-game interview, certain times you run the ball in certain looks. And I'm saying they thought they had a look that they knew they could run the ball to. And they might have did get the look, but once again, like he said in his post-game interview, that maybe we just didn't block it well enough. Because if it was open, in my opinion, everybody would say, whoa, great call, Locks. But then it didn't work. It was like, boo. So it's like, it's just tough, man, to say what exactly they need to do. I think they need to play cleaner football. I think if they played cleaner from the start to the finish, that game wouldn't have been close. They played down to their opponent, which was Illinois, but I got to give my hats to Illinois, man. That team came out flying, man. They came out playing well. That running back that stepped in for Love the third, he's a big guy, man. Gauthier made him look a little crazy on one of the plays late in the fourth quarter, but for the most part, man, he was pretty active all game. That quarterback is a young player for Illinois, and he stepped up and made great plays, man, and used his legs to get out of that pass rush that was coming off the edge, steaming all day. And once again, man, Illinois played a great game and capitalized on Maryland's mistakes offensively and defensively. And by the way, Maryland special teams, man, has to get better as well, man, because their kickoff coverage team was piss poor. They gave them the opportunity to run the ball back every time on kick returns, at least to the 30-yard line, starting above the 25 every single time to get them guys, you know what I'm saying, set them up for a good score every time. So things like that, man, it's the small things called hidden yardage, man, in this game that Maryland could clean up to help give themselves a better opportunity to win. Hope that answers your question.
Kind of going back to those runs, because they did it against Ohio State too. They went for it on fourth deep in their own territory. They ran 3 straight times, I think. Kind of what is that philosophy to kind of pound the ball instead of going to your weapons that you surround Talia with?
Me personally, when you have a dynamic duo set like Hemby and you also have Littleton back there, man, it gives you kind of the range to be able to play with things and keep defenses guessing. And I think that's exactly what Locks does, man. And once again, it's not like he's guessing to the point like, what do we call? He has a rhyme and reason why he calls certain plays. Every coach does. I mean, they wouldn't be there if they just called their plays. So certain looks is required to do certain things. You know what I mean? And to lay in his mind as a quarterback, he has his reads, he has his looks. He's looking off safeties, pre-snap. He's looking at what safeties that do he have 1 high? Does he have 2 high? You know what I mean? All that is predicated where the ball goes as far as throwing it. And passing, I mean, for the run game, man, you know what I'm saying? Of course, you want to look at the box, man. You always want to look at how many numbers you have for your old line to block, plus who can I take to free up this run, you know what I mean? And all that, man, goes into the philosophy of when do you run the ball and when do you throw it? And I think that's the kind of the big thing people try to understand. Why did Locks run the ball in that critical third and medium? And me as a player, I felt them on that, like, man, y'all just don't understand that sometimes it's a certain look that we get and that will bust free. I think, I mean, what was it, like late, what drive was that, like end of the third quarter when it was like a late, like it was a third down or fourth down when they gave the ball to Hemby. They had like a counter play with guys rolled to the right with the 2 guards and tackle pulled to the right, and Hemby went the ball to the left and got about 20-yard gain. And like runs like that makes Locks look like he's a superstar play caller. But when he makes those mistakes and not get the third and medium, it's like he's a bad play caller. And it's like, it's just tough. It's a tough situation to be in as a coach. But once again, he said in his post-game interview that we have to block better and execute better, and it all falls down on the leader, which is Loxley.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, it's all really about the outcome in that situation. So, you get the first down there, and people are saying completely different things. Here's a little bit back kind of to your football journey. You mentioned Loxley as a recruiter. You mentioned some of the other schools you were looking at. Obviously, you decided on Maryland, but what was that like? What was the recruiting pitch that Maryland coaching staff had to get you to come to College Park?
Well, I wouldn't say it was really a big pitch. I think it was more so me playing for a coach that I was comfortable with, man. I think I felt comfortable being home. I'm a D.C. guy. I grew up in D.C., played high school football in D.C. All I knew was D.C., D.C., D.C. So the fact of going to Florida, I'd have been going to Florida just because of the environment of living in Florida and nice weather. Like, it was all the things that had nothing to really do with football. It was just more so me just taking a vacation for football. You know what I mean? A long vacation for football versus me playing here at home. It'd be like, I'm playing for something. I'm playing for my family that's here. My mom is going to come visit me. My pops, like, everybody like that's locally that's from there that know I play ball will beat the games, man, for the support. And it would just be fun to play in front of those guys and say that I made it from here at home and didn't have to go to Bama or go anywhere to get to rock their Steelers hat, you know what I mean? Or, you know what I mean? Anything like that. So that was kind of the thing. It was just more so like, man, just making sure it was the right program for me, man. And you know how when I was there, man, we went through a lot of different coaching changes, man, from Logs to Durkin and Durkin's situation we had with my guy, Jordan. And it was just a lot, man, from my time in Maryland, man. It was up and down. It was rocky. Like, we just couldn't find our consistency there, man. And but that's fine, though, and I wouldn't trade that situation for nothing, man. I feel like it was a unique situation for us, man. And I'm happy we went through it because we went through those type of issues to now see that this 2023 team of Maryland can succeed. We went through all the BS for that, you know what I mean? And I'm happy to see him, man. That's why that's why I chose to come back and do my show on the Terps, man, because it's something deep there, man, and Maryland deserves to finally be blowing guys out the way they should, you know what I mean? Because we took it back there. So.
I kind of wanted to touch on the situation with McNair a little bit. You know, as an offensive lineman, that's one of your closest teammates. Kind of, what was that situation kind of handled like in the locker room with your offensive lineman group, and then just your teammates in general as all that's going on?
Man, we was 100% rally behind our guy Jordan, because at the end of the day, we seen the things that was wrong, and we seen the things that we saw it leading up to that point before this even happened, that something is going to happen eventually. You know what I'm saying? I understood Durkin's plan, man. Durkin's a great coach, man. And once again, I love Durkin, man. And I don't think that any of this thing came down to be like intentional, but they just wanted the best out of us. But they had sometimes a bad way of showing it, and it resulted in things that it shouldn't have resulted in. But you know what I mean? And I know they kicking themselves every day about the situation that happened, because it shouldn't have went that way. But all they knew was trying to coach us a way to win. Because when you came to the school, they just knew that we was losing. So it was like, how do we get these guys to play like a Big Ten team? Well, let's put them in an environment that's hostile all the time. Let's get these guys always competing everything. I mean, we was competing for our food sometimes, doing tug of war for our food at a table. You know what I mean? At the cafeteria table in Gossett at the time. We was at the Gossett Fieldhouse back there. And it was just a toxic environment sometimes, but they didn't look at it that way, because they was trying to get the best and competitiveness out of us. So when we got in those tough games like against Ohio State, when things weren't going our way, that we know how to pull through adversity. Because I mean, I learned one thing from being in the league, like being with Mike Vrabel, man, with the Titans, and he always talked about I think Robert Woods just got picked up for our team, man, from the Chargers. Somebody won the Super Bowl. And he was talking about, man, the things that I cherish was, the things I think about when we won that Super Bowl was being able to reflect back, man, on adversity moments. And that's kind of what helped us drive each other to say, man, that we're not losing to nobody, because, bro, we just went through this, and I don't think nobody in the world ever went through this. And that's kind of what they was trying to set us up for. Like, ain't nobody going through the stuff we going through inside this building every day. So we have to owe it to ourselves to at least give us a victory every Saturday. You know what I'm saying? Even the fans ain't know what was going on. Y'all never heard of none of this stuff going on until the Jordan McNair situation. But this was leading up way before that. You know what I mean? And we was just saying to ourselves, we gotta win, man, because we owe this to ourselves, man. We go through too much on a daily basis. We put our bodies on the line, our brains, our mental on the line every day, that we have to get something out of this. You know what I mean? And we didn't in things, and it was tough, man. It was really tough, man. And it was a tough situation to see my guy go, and it was hard to sit in that O-line room and not, because it was Damian Prince in the middle of me. I sat there, and it was like I looked back, and he was right there, like on an angle, and I could see Jordan every day smiling, man. And I knew that he was a young guy that was destined to be good, man, in the O-line position. So it's like, as I looked over my shoulder to my left, I would look. He'd always just be smiling, clicking his pen, and that was his thing, man. He'd be clicking his pen, just smiling, man. It's crazy. I still got his shirt, still wear his shirt, man. When I played in the USFL, I wore that 79 shirt under it all the time, man. It's giving me chills just thinking about it, because it's like, it's hard, bro. Like, that was really a tough time, man. It was just like, we was going to do whatever, man, to make sure that we got justice for our boy, man. And that's right, man. That's it, man.
Kind of following up after that, the team obviously and the university kind of goes through a lot of adversity. I guess, what were kind of on people's mind when you're trying to build a program back up, and you know it's kind of from like a spot, like you said, where you're just trying to put yourself through these crazy mental tasks, and obviously a tragedy happens, and I guess I would imagine it's just really hard to build the program back up starting at that point.
Well, Maryland did a thing, was trying to build the program up was by trying to get rid of those guys. And then when they got rid of that guy, got rid of the guys that, you know what I'm saying, made the program go down. Now, I wouldn't say go down, because when we was at Etzel, we won some big games with Etzel, but at the same time, we also lost a lot too. So, but at the end of the day, it wasn't down to the point that how DJ Durkin had that program. The reason why I'm saying him is because he was the head coach. He's a leader, so he's the one that understands what's going on. And despite the strength coach is the one that really ran the drills or whatever case may be, it still falls down on the head guy, which is the head coach. So I would say during his era, he really had us down, because it would have resulted to, you know what I'm saying? Etzel never did this. Ralph Friedgen never did this, but it happened under your era. So you had our program at the lowest of its lowest because you didn't understand when enough was enough, when too much was too much. You know what I mean? And quite frankly, the things we did there, we did up and beyond more than we ever did before with the old staff, and it still resulted in the same goddamn results. Not no bowl game, nothing great. Like, so all that shit, I'm sorry to curse, all that was for nothing. And it was a waste of time. It just beat us up, and it physically, like, mentally destroy some of the guys. You got to think about it. We're college students, just like you guys having to deal with that every morning, 5 a.m. in the morning, getting up, dealing with grown ass coaches. I'm saying treating us like we you know what I'm saying, crazy. You know what I'm saying? But once again, in their mind, they just want the best of us. But we young, like, man, we just trying to play ball, man. Like, we want to win. We don't want to lose. We want to win. So it's like we're not trying to do this on purpose. Help us figure out what is our scheme. Use our personnel the best to our ability, rather than just trying to get us big and strong and angry every day. That's not doing nothing, bro. And then we still got to be college students and still got to go to class. We still got to go to Tall's Hall and all those different halls over there, man, and do our work. And y'all checking out class every day, man. And when we don't make it, guess what? We doing 6 a.m. workouts. Like, it's like, bro, help us become better football players, man. That's not tear us down mentally, man. Help us become a football player. And ideally, we're going to perform better in the goddamn classrooms, bro. Like, which we had great performance in the classrooms, but it was hard sometimes to go to workout. I mean, go to class at 9 a.m. when you've been up since 5 and you hurting, bro. I'm talking about dead tired because you just got your fucking shit kicked in all morning. You know what I mean? And last thing I want to hear is a professor talking about pay attention. Like, man, forget that. You know what I mean? And it's like, it looked like, oh, football players are jocks and bro, you don't understand what we going through, bro. Like, and mind you, we don't want no sympathy from anybody because we choose to sign that paper and do this, and we on scholarship to please you guys as fans and writers that we're going to do the best of our ability. But behind those closed doors, I'm letting you know from a player on that played on a high level, bro. And it's probably going to be the best podcast. Like, I'm going to give it to you real that, bro, it's a lot that goes into this thing, man, that people don't understand, man, behind these closed doors, bro. And it's, once again, we're not looking for no pity or no sympathy, but people got to understand, man, you're human first, athlete second, man. And yeah, man, it was hard to balance that lifestyle of school and that together. But back to your question, to rebuild that thing back up, man, Loxley did a great thing by just trying to connect with the community and understand with the direction that he bring it to. He's, like he said, I'm a DMV guy, I'm a DC guy, grew up. This has always been his passion to be coaching his home team. And Loxley's always been a great guy. He went to Alabama, won a national championship, I think 2 of them. And I mean, dude, his resume speaks for itself, man. And he's doing the right thing by starting with recruiting and getting other guys to buy in and understand, man, that this is the program that's going to be one of the best in the country, man. And I mean, the way they playing, man, overall, forget the Ohio State loss, forget that. But the way they playing with that grit and nastiness, man, they playing like that script that's behind your screen right now. That script that's on your wall. And the reason why I say they playing like that script, because when they had that script, they was lights out, man. Sean Merriman, Vernon Davis, you know what I'm saying? Dominique Foxworth, all those guys in that 2001 team that was lights out, bro. Like, that was just going crazy, man. And the people were scared to play the Terps, you know what I mean? And that's why that's probably half of the reason why Locks chose to make that the primary uniform, because he's trying to bring that culture back again where we are the guys that people are feared to play against, fear the turtle.
When you've got like all that's going on that you just talked about, and then something I've always wondered is when there's fans on social media criticizing, you and the team when stuff is going poorly, how often do you guys pay attention to that, and how often does that affect you when you see that?
You talking about when you see what again? Exactly, like the
when you see like fans fans criticizing you on social media. Meanwhile, you have all that going on as a player, classes and the practices and having them, memorize the plays and then go out, play so much. Like, how does that all fill into that?
Like I said, man, in college is definitely something hard to balance out, because you got to understand I'm just like you. We just like you guys. All we doing is playing football. We just playing football for your school. Like, bro, I'm in class with you. Half of the guys that like we hung out with that wasn't even like football players. We all in the same class, bro. Like, you know what I mean? So we all the same people. Just that I get to wear a uniform on Saturday and you get to go cheer me on. So it's like sometimes it's hard to see those guys on Twitter or these social platforms say, Well, man, Gray sucks, man. He gave up a sack to Bosa in the first half. I remember I gave up a sack against Ohio State. First we was on the road, and I forgot who the running back was. I think Cardale Jones was playing at the time. Was the quarterback. Cardale Jones and JT Barrett was there, and we playing those guys on the road. We got Nick Bosa. It's like the year right before Nick Bosa left, and Nick Bosa was having a great year that year, and first third and long, which everybody in the horseshoe about Columbus, Ohio knew we was throwing the ball. Tyrell Pigram was back there. And no, actually Max Bortenslauger. That's giving me some history. Max Bortenslauger was the quarterback. And first third down, man, we're going to silent cadence. Bro, tough. Silent cadence. Tough is like more so you gotta almost watch the ball here. You there, but I'm looking, I don't gotta block you, but I gotta look at the ball here. And as soon as you say go, I don't know if you already jumped the count or anything. All I know is I got to snap my head back and hopefully be back in front of you when I'm moving. And Bosa beat me. Like the ball, this time I chose, what I did, I chose not to look at the ball because I really wanted to get a good jump. I wanted to kind of feel my offensive line when they move, I go. And kind of, he jumped the snap on me and our offensive line moved kind of slow. All of us did. And we all kind of got beat. But Bosa came around the edge on me and beat me and tipped the ball out. Nick Bosa did. And I'm talking about, after that, first thing I see on Twitter was Derwin Gray gets beat. Wow, Derwin Gray's trash. Derwin Gray's this. I'm like, bro, do you know, dude, come put the helmet on and do the same thing. I guarantee you'd be like, bro, like, how do y'all think like this? But we are different type of humans, bro. Like, we're able to operate on hostile stuff like that. And I come back around and give up no more strip sacks after that. But it was a learning thing for us. But as fans, they criticize to the T. But that's what y'all supposed to do. You know what I'm saying? And it's up to us to either listen to you guys or cancel it out, man, and move on to the next play and continue to play. Because at the end of the day, man, football, they're going to love you when you up and they're going to hate you when you down. And as y'all see right now, we're probably getting a lot of backlash right now about us losing to Illinois, a team we should beat on homecoming. We getting a lot of backlash as us now, analysts and reporters. We getting a lot of backlash like, oh, Terps are trash. Terps really not going to be this. And it's like the players are feeling it, and as well as we got to feel it because we have to report these type of things. And it's like hard to talk about when everyone's like giving Maryland the thumbs down now when everybody was like, yay, Terps had a great game against Ohio State. You know what I mean? And it's just like everyone feels it, you know what I mean?
Obviously, you bounced around the league a little bit in terms of the NFL, 7th round pick, and then played for a couple different franchises. What is that, when you're not a secure player on a team necessarily, when you kind of know that any week your job can be at stake? Like I saw a couple times you got elevated and then you get released like later on. How hard is it to really commit yourself fully to the league like that? Because it's got to be draining in a certain way, to have to constantly worry about your job security and knowing you're not going to get many reps in practice. If you get in the game, and you mess up, then it's 10 times worse in the NFL than it is in college with people calling for your head. What is that pressure like? A lot of people talk about pressure for the high level players, but I want to ask about the fringe guys like yourself. What was your experience like with that type of mental pressure?
Oh man, well, when I first got drafted, bro, I understood I was getting drafted to a stellar program, a franchise that was made of straight history. I mean, I came in at Pittsburgh. My quarterback is Ben Roethlisberger, and so that's already the GOAT. Then I got a Hall of Famer center, Marquise Pouncey. Then I have a Hall of Fame right guard, David Castro. Then I have a Hall of Fame left guard, Ramon Foster. Then I have a Hall of Fame left tackle, Alejandro Villanueva, the ex-Marine and military guy that everyone loves. And then you have right tackle that was emerging that just came off a great year, Matt Filer. So it was just like I came into a superstar O-line. We had James Conner, we had Juju Smith. I mean, we got everybody. We are loaded, bro. That's the year we went like 13-0. And I'm coming as a rookie. I'm like, okay, like, how do I fit? Why did y'all choose to waste a pick on me? I could have went somewhere else like the Commanders or the Washington football team or whatever they was called back then and been somewhere I could actually play. And that's how I felt when I wasn't getting no time in my rookie year. And I was just like, bro, like, this is BS, bro. Like, they have a full-line Hall of Fame offensive line and a quarterback. Ben Roethlisberger is a different type of guy. He's a guy that he kind of calls the shots, bro. I won't say kind of, he does. Yeah, I mean, he got to feel comfortable with you guys to be in there that he'll want to play. Because if he don't feel comfortable up there, he's either gonna make some changes himself, or he something's gonna be done if Ben feel like he's uncomfortable. And that's probably what every type of franchise quarterback like that, Pat Mahomes, or you know what I'm saying, Tom Brady, everybody that's really like quarterbacks like that, they status all probably operate the same way. But as a rookie, it was kind of frightening a little bit to be sitting beside him. My locker's right beside Ben Roethlisberger and Marquise Pouncey. So I'm sitting beside 2 Hall of Famers, and I'm like, who do I speak to? I'm nervous. I don't even know who to speak to. I'm like, man, Ben Roethlisberger was like a frightening guy to talk to. Like, he didn't talk to me until I got my first opportunity to play, which was year 2. That's when he finally said my name, man. And it was probably the best thing in my life. I was like, man, Ben Roethlisberger finally said my name. And I played for this organization for a whole year, and he never said a word to me. And I sat right next to him. At first I was like, what type of leader is him, man, to be a guy like that? Don't even speak to the draft pick that is drafted to protect you. But hey, it was cool. And in year 2, he became cool because I understood what his mindset was like. He was like, man, like, if you ain't gave no blood or shed tears on this team, I don't care if he was drafted or undrafted. 1st round pick, 7th round pick, or not even on the team or undrafted. You got to earn your stripes to be around me, because that's what I did for my whole time in the league. I'm not here because I was like a draft pick or I'm just good and everybody loved me. No, I put the work in to make every single body in this world respect who Ben Roethlisberger was. And organizations like that were just hard, because now I got to find a way to get myself into the lineup with these pros that have been on the league for 10 plus years, and I'm a rookie that's coming in at 22, 23. You know what I mean? So it's a tough situation. It's like you don't have much film because you don't play, because who are they going to take out? They're going to take out the guys that have been blocking for him for 10 years. So it's a little difficult, man. It's nerve-wracking. And when I got released, man, it's crazy. I got released after I had a superstar Monday night game against the Bengals. I played a crazy game that night, man, going against a Hall of Famer, Mike Daniels with the Cincinnati Bengals. You know, they was a division rivalries, man. And that's back on the time we was doing the little Corvette. Y'all remember that little dance, Corvette, little thing, TikTok, that little dance Juju was doing? Juju was doing it on everybody's logo. And he had the crowd, his dog, everybody's lit. We doing a Corvette dance, and Von Bell, like, literally knocks his head off during that game. Like, literally, like, almost like annihilated this guy. And I was like, yo, this is a crazy, like, this is divisional football. Like, this is like really like hatred football in this field. Like, I was like, wow, bro. For me to actually be in a game like that, it was fun, man. Like, to look back on, because the last time the Bengals really had like a real game against Steelers like that is when Montez Burfict and like AB got hit, and Juju came and knocked the dude out and put him on a stretch, and he got suspended. It was crazy. That beef like that is real, bro. Like, crazy, bro. Like, but back to your question, man. Yeah, it's nerve-wracking, man. It's hard to deal with. It's draining, bro, to know that you got to, one day you be here, the next day you don't. No one in the league is safe unless you just that guy like Pat Mahomes or like Tom Brady or whoever. No one is really safe, bro. Like, it's hard, bro. First rounders ain't really safe, man. I mean, Devin Bush was there, and Devin Bush is now, I guess, just a guy. He's just a guy, rotational guy for the Seahawks. And he was the first pick in the draft, first pick for the Steelers in the draft.
Yeah, just a guy, the worst. Steve Smith.
Steve Smith, he was just a jag, man. He's just a guy now. Like, and Devin Bush, my boy. We came in the same year as my boy, but just a guy now, man, in the league. And he was a first rounder. So I'm like, it's hard, bro.
Yeah. Quick.
And it's like, and before you get to that point, and he became just a guy because he tore his ACL giving his all to an organization. He tore his ACL making a play on the sideline, standing up and slipped and tore his ACL. Literally running out of bounds, making a tackle, and literally just try to slow down and slip and tore his ACL on his own on the sideline, on the opponent's sideline, and his knee just kind of, I guess he's lost like maybe a step, and then he just became just a guy. Like, Devin Bush is not doing this. Devin Bush hates the program, blah, blah, blah. And then before you know, he's gone. And it's like, well, we just spent all this money on a first rounder, and he's just a guy now. But in fans' eyes, they don't care, man. It don't care at all.
Business both ways, man. Love you when you're bad.
It's crazy. Crazy.
Quick questions. I know they got a couple. Which is more intense that you've been in? Any rivalry at Maryland or Bengals Steelers or NFL rivalries? Because Maryland, there's not really any big rivalries here.
Yes, it is. What? Oh, it's a big rivalry. Penn State.
Okay, so Penn State, Maryland, more intense than Bengals, Steelers, would you say?
Man, it's just, oh man, it's tough, bro. It's a good question, bro. It's tough. I think, oh my gosh, bro. I would say that one was probably. Oh no, I can't say that. I would say the Bengals and Bengals and Steelers game we played in that Monday night was probably intense. It was a Monday night game. It was like my first start. Nervous as hell. Want to make sure I please Ben. You know what I mean? And make sure he stays safe. You want to please. You know what I'm saying? You pop on the field, and you know what I'm saying. And he expects a certain standard out of you, man. And it's quick story, real quick, out of Ben, man. What made me so nervous and made that game more pressure than it was. The fact of playing for Ben was my rookie year. We do something called 7 shots. After we do stretch, we go to something called 7 shots. You go on the red zone, and you got seven plays to get in the end zone against the defense. It's like a competition thing. And you get 4 plays of the ones and 3 plays of the twos. And I came in with the ones because Ramon Foster had a vet day. That's the thing about the league. You get vet days. When he had a vet day, he was tired. I don't feel like practice today. Hey, young pup, you in. I'm in. I get in, and we're doing 7 shots. The first play, Ben is calling the play, and I'm like, okay. And he's calling the play, and I'm totally just still in memory lane. I'm not memory lane, but like a fantasy world. Like, is this really Ben Roethlisberger, bro? Like, bro, I've been playing with this dude on Madden since I was a young boy. This is really Ben Roethlisberger. He's calling the play, and I missed the whole play. He said, ready, break. I get to the line. I'm like, fuck, what is the play? Did miss the whole play. I was just staring at him as he had no chin strap on, this big-ass beard, and he just calling the play, and it's like, crazy, man, big dude. And we get to play, say, what is the play? And he's seen something and say, hi, real quick. Pouncey snaps the ball. I slide one way. The other O-line slides his way. And I think it was Tyson Aluga or Javon Hargrave. They came right to the middle. And, of course, you can't hit the quarterback. He's ran past. And, the defense be screaming, sack, 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 sack. And everybody be jumping on the defense side because they know it would have been a sack, but they still let you throw the ball off. Ben did nothing to the ball. He threw the goddamn thing. He threw the ball. He kicked the ball, punted it over the net into the Pittsburgh River or something like that, Pittsburgh River, and it connects to Cleveland and all that. He punted him. It's like, who the heck is this rookie? Get him out of here. Get him out of here. Like, get him out of the practice. Like, and what to do? Took me out. You know what I'm saying? I pissed my opportunity away. That was like probably early on, but I would live with that because I was starstruck for a second. I couldn't believe it was Ben. Like, it was Ben Roethlisberger, bro. Like I'm pretty sure people that played with Tom Brady had the same moment. Not exactly how I had it, but yeah. Same one. So playing for Ben, remembering that coming this year too, coming back and thinking about year 1 when that happened, it was like, I cannot disappoint this guy, man. He's been saying my name now. I've been practicing on this guy. I know how he thinks now. Like, I can't disappoint this guy. And I had the best game of my life, bro. Like, really. Me and Mike Daniels, we talked. Mike Daniels, I went against. He was going to be a Hall of Famer, D tackle. We talked. He was a young rookie, or a young guy, bro. You're going to be a great guard in this league, bro. Like, you're going to be a stellar guard in this league. And, yeah, man. And then after that, a week later, they made me inactive. I was inactive. I didn't travel. And I was like, what the heck just happened? Like, why am I not playing? And I had put a famous quote out, and I had the jersey on my helmet on. And I was like, put me in the game, coach. I'm ready. And a week later, I was released, and I was going to Jacksonville. And I was like, this is interesting, man. Kevin Colbert, he called me. He talked about it, man. It's like, we low on linebackers. Marcus Allen was hurt. Vince Williams was hurt. They had to go get T. Gray Scales to come play linebacker, man, to be a starting linebacker off the street. So it was just a tough situation. It was like, well, I didn't get hurt. Why do I got to suffer for this? I just had a great game. But it comes back to your point about how you say, like, this the frustration of the league and how draining it could be because you just never know when it's your time. But I didn't do nothing wrong. I played a hell of a goddamn game, man. There's still fucking clips about that game out. Yeah, how I opened up holes for Benny Snell and those guys. Like, but, hey, do it matter? No. Who cares? Next day, you're out of here. Appreciate the game, though. Appreciate you helping us do our thing. But see ya. That's it.
My last question, some of the best stories you'll get from an NFL player are the day they got that phone call saying they've been drafted to the league. What's your story of finding out that you were drafted?
Great question, man. I love telling that story, man. So, man, on the draft day, man, I'm looking at, man, I'm like, I should be a day 2 guy, man. I'm like, waiting. Then get the call. Day 3 comes, and I'm looking at the Mel Kiper ball, who's the best available tackles left, and offensive lineman on the board left. And I'm looking, man. It's like the 6th round. I'm like, bro, I'm like sitting here texting my agent or telling my agent, I'm like, bro, what is going on, bro? Like, why I'm still falling, bro. And I'm looking at guys like Isaiah Prince at the time and all these guys like him that supposed to be drafted high. He was falling. And I was like, this is a weird draft. As we always say every single year, every draft is always weird, right? So I'm like, why is them falling like this? Like, man, it's just a weird draft, bro. Like, they don't need no offensive lineman in the 5th round. They don't really want none. They don't want no 6th round. And then all of a sudden, I'm looking at the board. I'm like, well, I got 30-some picks left in the 7th round, and it's only me, Isaiah, and somebody else. So I need these 2 guys to go so I can get drafted. So I'm sitting there watching them get frustrated. I get a butt dial like around the 6th round from Tennessee. Mind you, man, Tennessee had a kind of crazy encounter at the combine about how a crazy kind of meeting at the inside of something called the train station, man, in the combine. And Mike Vrabel came in with his Ohio State guys. Rest in peace to my guy Dwayne Haskins, but Dwayne Haskins was there, Paris Campbell, and what's the big offensive line? Oh, Isaiah Prince. That big Isaiah Prince was there, and he was like, it was this crazy thing, man. He walked up with those guys like these bodyguards or something for him, and it was a crazy encounter. So I'm like, man, it was just trying to test my brain and see if I get out of character. He's trying to get under my skin a little bit, and I ain't falling for it. And after that, man, I actually come to my pro day. Vrabel was like, I think about it. I asked my Ohio State guys, should I come to his pro day? They was like, man, we all know Derwin, bro. Like, go to his pro day in Maryland, man. He said, shut this guy. So it was kind of like trying to get me mad and stuff like that. You know what I'm saying? It's combine for the test you. So that's the background of that. I get a butt dial, like a crazy call from Tennessee. I said, it was like around the 5th round. I said, I'm going to Tennessee. This is before I started falling all the way down. I was like, I'm going to Tennessee. I called the number calls, and as soon as I answered, it hung up. I'm like, wait a minute. I'm calling this Nashville number back. I called back, and it's like, they text me and said, hey, sorry, butt dial, man, but stay by your phone just in case. So I was like, okay, cool. I'm staying. Before you know it, it's still waiting. It's the end of the 6th, going to the end of the 6th. One guy that was in front of Isaiah Prince get drafted. I said, cool. And then like the last pick of the 6th, Isaiah go. I said, oh my God, I gotta be next. And then before you know it, maybe the 2nd pick of the 7th round, like first pick or the 2nd pick of the 1st round, Mike Tomlin gives me the call. What's up, Dirty Turp? You ready to be a Steeler? And I was like, man, I've been ready since 1st round. I've been ready. You know what I mean? But, hey, I'm blessed, man, the opportunity to say that I got drafted, man, to be in the history books forever for a draft pick, man. And, yeah, man, it was a moment that was crazy, man. I feel like I worked my tail off, man. And I had a crazy Maryland experience from that starting my first year in Maryland, not being the guy my first year coming from being an unarmed All-American and then all these schools and not parade All-American, all these All-American stuff I had, and being redshirt in my first year, then being a rotational guy my 2nd year, only having 25 games started. My guy Damian Prince had 50 games started. They getting drafted, did not get drafted. I don't know how. And I was the guy that, man, worked my tail off and did the little small things, man, and stayed in shape, make sure my body was right, man. And I had two surgeries in college. Actually, 3. I had 3 surgeries in college, my right knee and 2 shoulders. And I still was able to, man, bounce back from those injuries and play well enough to get drafted, bro. Like, and play well enough in the league too as well, man. So that call was unreal, man. It was a lot that went into that call, man. For me, it was more emotional for me because it was like, man, like your hard work paid off. The DJ Durkins, that toxic program, all the coaching changes, man, and trying to deal with all these different quarterbacks that's coming in, man, and getting hurt and having to bounce back every year. And then my last year not being really – my last year kind of my draft stock went down a little bit because I wasn't able to bend like I used to be because of my surgery was so bad. But no one in the fans knew that. And just all that went into that call and was just like, fuck, bro. Like, I did it, man. I did it after all that adversity, bro. And I'm happy now to share this moment with my family, my daughter. At the time, I had a daughter while I was in school. So I was a young guy walking around with a kid too. And yeah, bro. So
how'd you celebrate?
Man, I was at my middle school coach's house, man. I was deep in far in Maryland, man, close to whatever state that's close to that Maryland. But all the way at his house, man, it was specifically wanted to do it at his house, man, because that's why I started playing football. I was a basketball guy my whole life, and he was the one that said, man, you need to put the basketball down and really become a football guy, man, because you're not going to be 6'8", you're not going to be 6'10", you're not going to be a center, man. You'll be a point guard, you're not going to be fast enough. So use your talents the right way, get on the football field, man, and watch what happened. And I did that, man. Went to high school, started playing football, and loved it. And before you know, I had about 50 scholarships to go everywhere in the country, unarmed All-American, man, and did my thing, and end up going to Maryland and becoming a Big Ten all conference guy as well for 2 years in a row. I think it was 2 years or 3 years in a row, one of them. So man, it was crazy, bro. So better get those honors, man. Coming off those injuries, man, that shows like, and remember being a college student, still have to still find a way to get on crutches, get the class, and it was hard, bro. Like it's crazy, bro. So, and I'm thinking about Jay Sean Jones, man. I'm like, wow, Jay Sean was there when I was there. Like, he's still there. Like, this is like year 10 for him, bro. Like, I'm just cracking a joke. That's my guy, man. I'm like, dang, Jay Sean, bro. Like, you the grandpa of the team, bro. Go Tay, too. Go Tay getting up there, too. It's crazy, man.
Yeah, we had Jay Sean on earlier this season, so got to hear about all those stories from kind of when you ended up until now. I think we can probably agree that, O-lineman has a great game. People aren't really necessarily going to talk about it. Not always the position that's going to get the most flash. I mean, you've played a ton of games, USFL, NFL, going back to college, high school, middle school. Do you have one game in your mind that you kind of sticks out to you as like your personal best performance? You went on that field and you knew that you did everything in your power personally, and that was your best game. Do you have a favorite or best game of your personal career?
Maryland, the first time we played Texas, going out there and getting my hand on a kick on a field goal and block that kick for Antoine Brooks to return it for a touchdown. That's the first time we ever beat Texas, bro. I remember that game, bro, that blocked field goal. Yeah, that was 55. That was me. Block that field goal, man. I take pride in it. As an offensive lineman, playing both sides of the ball like that, man. And I take my hat off to the coaches, man, trusting me to be able to play both sides of the offensive line, to be athletic enough to be able to go now become a D lineman, man, and get pushed on the O-line, man, and get my hand up on the flight line. As Coach Barnes say, man, he coaches up in Memphis, University of Memphis. I actually sailed home when I was playing in USFL. Coach Barnes, man, told me to get my hand on the flight line, and I knocked that guy back, that guard back, and just put my hand up, and then before you know it, I said, boom, ball hit my hand. It was like crowd erupted, and then all I know is the ball was getting kicked by Tino Ellis a little bit, and before you know it, Antoine Brooks scooped it up and put us and gave us opportunity, man, to give us a lead now. And the whole game switched against Texas, man. And when we went out to blow them out, man, beat them the right way, man. And then we came back a year later. I was hurt. That's the season I got hurt, messed my knee up. And next year I didn't play the first game, and that's when we honored Jordan McNair by playing with 10 guys on the field. And that's when we beat Texas again, back to back. But it would be able to be that first initial Texas game when I blocked that kick, man. It was a crazy game. So if y'all remember that, man, make sure I go check out that game and see that blocked field goal, man. It was crazy, bro.
D for coming on. You guys can find his podcast, Protect the Shell, I believe. You can find him on Twitter at Team Gray. Again, D, thanks so much for hopping on. And hey, we all of us here love as many Terps content as possible. So I'm glad we could get you on and hear some of those stories. So thanks again, my man.
Man, I appreciate it, man. I say y'all boys continue to do y'all thing, man. And I love y'all content. I love what y'all got going on. And once again, we apologize for that name issue thing, man. And yeah, man, y'all always be good peoples, man. Love to hop back on y'all show soon. And definitely got to get one of you guys on my show, my Terp show, man, and get that turned up, man, with all the quotes and everything, man. I'm have y'all looking real good on my page, man. Yeah, man, I have it looking sick, bro. So, man, y'all boys do y'all thing. Have a good night, man. And reach out to me if y'all ever need anything, man. Advice on something, man. I got you boys, bro.
You heard D. Gray. You heard us. He's a little bit more optimistic than I am about the Maryland football team, who really just took all the wind out of the sails of Maryland fans, it felt like, on Saturday. Just a pretty much dejecting, disgusting, disappointing, all the bad D synonyms you can have. That's what it was. Depressing.
Despicable.
Yeah, so there's a lot of them. And
diabolical.
We could go on for days, but
downright unfortunate.
And that's what it was. Maryland loses to Illinois.
Disgraceful.
On homecoming, and a game-winning field goal kick by the Fighting Illini. Fellas, I mean, let's just start with the most outrageous thing that we saw on Saturday. What was the one theme that you took away? Like, what is Maryland doing?
They're playing not to lose. It's simple. There's no reason, if you feel confident that you can win a football game, that going into the second half that you are onside kicking. That decision was probably the one that I just could not understand. If you think you're going to win the football game, why are you onside kicking? What do you guys think about that? Makes no sense.
I get the element of surprise, but at the same time, that's for teams who are the underdog. Right?
Absolutely. Do that against Ohio State, sure.
Yeah, you're at home.
Penn
You're
State,
the
Michigan, great.
You're the favorite. Don't go. I mean, first of all, you've had no creativity on offense all game. Not one creative play call I saw other than the screen plays, which was
The flea flicker.
I mean, it worked at the end, but it's like
Right.
I'm talking down-to-down basis. There wasn't much route creativity. I saw routes where guys are running to the same spots. It feels like we're watching 4 verts every other play. And then you want to come up with an onside kick. And I'm not saying, like, obviously, I'm not a coach. I'm not a player. I don't know, like, if that's something I'm assuming they repped it all week.
Oh, I'm sure.
But at the end of the day, it didn't work. And we can talk about, well, you do this and you do that, but at the end of the day, it's a results-oriented business, and you go for an onside kick and it doesn't work, you look like an idiot, and they looked like idiots on Saturday. So I didn't like it. Like you said, Brendan, do that when you're the underdog, you're playing a top-tier opponent, you need to steal possessions.
Mm-hmm.
They didn't need to steal anything, in my opinion.
You need to just play better.
Yeah.
They just looked tired. They looked exhausted from the game the previous week in Columbus. They looked like they spent all their energy on that. And then they come back to College Park, and they're down 10 against Illinois at one point. Like, I just feel like maybe entering this bye week, they'll get that rest. They'll see what the top dogs in the Big Ten are like, and they'll come better prepared for Michigan and Penn State later on.
You make a good point, Mike. Maryland fans are probably excited. Maryland can't lose this weekend. They cannot make it 3 in a row this upcoming weekend. Have the bye, and then have Northwestern and Penn State. We talked about it with the decision to run the ball on Maryland's last offensive possession 3 times in a row. I think it's a frustrating one, but for me, I thought the onside kick was crazy. What do you guys think about the play calling? You talked about, got us in the hot seat, but
I mean, you saw this at Michigan. There's not a semblance to me in these type of spots where it feels like the offense is really building a rhythm. It feels like the plays are fractured from each other. One play to the next play. One play to the next play. You watch the best offenses in college football or the NFL. Like, for example, my favorite team, the Lions in the NFL. Quick plug, they're 5-1. But every play is set up to run another play, right? Like, we're going to use this motion on this play in order to then set up a play later in the game when we know the defenses are going to react to
maybe
that
it looks
look.
similar. Yeah,
Yes,
exactly.
I don't see that with Maryland's offense. Everything feels like it's like, okay, we worked on this in practice. I know this play call. I think this is going to work. Let me get in my own lane, and I'm just going to call those plays instead of feeling out the rhythm of the game. Roman Hemby had one of his best game, probably his best game of the season, and we don't see him really in spots. Like, get him out in space, make him a weapon. Even if you want to use him as a type of distraction play to kind of get somebody else going, that's fine. And I know that sounds all like sports writing narrative, but at the end of the day, watching the game, it feels like there's not really a rhythm to this offense. That even in the beginning of the season, it never felt like there was this type of coherence that you want to see. And I think some of that has to do with Gaddis. I also think some of that has to do with the players, obviously. Taulia is a good quarterback, good college quarterback. I think we can all
absolutely.
agree on
He's
that.
a very good college quarterback.
He has also proven time and time again that he is not that type of player who's going to really elevate you and pull you out of games, right? We've seen that he's played good, but he also is going to make the bone-crushing mistakes that will drag you down. Like D talked about, the sack he takes in the final drive. Boneheaded decisions now 3 weeks in a row at the end of the first half. Obviously, most of that is on coaching, but at the end of the day, some of that is on the players too, and especially your quarterback. You can't do it against Ohio State. And then this week, on the defensive side of the ball, with coaching, Loxley calls a timeout with 2 seconds. Bielema sends out and instead of the field goal team, they score a touchdown. It's like, it's little stuff
It's
like
little
that.
bad decisions that become one terrible football game.
Yeah, and I mean, just speaking, more about Taulia, like, the offensive, in terms of the deep ball passing, I saw a stat where he's regressed pretty heavily on passes over 20 yards down the field. They missed a couple of shot plays later in the game. And I just think that it's hard to say that, Maryland's still elevating themselves in the Big Ten. Sure, Maryland can beat the Rutgers. We know that. I'm not calling them frauds for their beginning.
And who knows if they will this year? But
yeah, but if consistently things happen year to year. Every year Maryland has a game like this. Last year it was the Purdue game. This year it's Illinois. what does that say about the program?
Absolutely, Sam. Maryland football does not get marquee wins. They get marquee losses, and that's the end of the story.
One thing I wanted to bring up was the defense. You just brought it up there a little bit, but you cannot allow an offense that entered the game averaging 19 points per game to go on they started at the Illinois 25 on that final field goal. You cannot allow them to march right down the field to your 25 and kick one for the win. Like, that's just unacceptable. In my eyes, they have not improved at all since last year. They allowed 354 yards a game compared to 353 yards last year. No improvements there. Their opponents last year scored 26 points per game. They just gave up 27 to Illinois and 37 to Ohio State. Not much improvement there.
Yeah, but I also think at a certain extent, I disagree a little bit because I think the defense has done enough. If you're going into the year, what would we all have said? What's the strength of this Maryland team?
Offense.
Their offense. They have a top Big Ten returning quarterback, top weapons as always. Loxley always runs a good offense, right? Last week against Ohio State, the defense did its job, in my opinion, at least in the first half. But when you give teams possession on possession on possession, when Talia turns the ball over 3 times this week, no picks, but the onside kick we talked about, that's basically giving away a possession. Penalties.
Good field position, yeah.
Penalties, some of that is on the defense, but also that's just boneheaded mistakes. I think the defense has slightly improved. They obviously weren't good enough on the game-ending drive, Mike. I don't think anyone is saying that. But I think that the main problem with this team is it's just clear that, and I don't want to get into narrative-y type things, but it's just hard not to say that they're not at that level of a Big Ten program that takes care of business.
Mm-hmm.
Like Michigan.
Absolutely. I couldn't agree with you more.
Michigan falls behind 7-0 against Indiana and just comes back with, suffocates them. They score 52 unanswered, and it's just domination. You're supposed to do that to bad teams. Illinois is not a good team.
It looked like Maryland was going to do that this year against Indiana and Michigan State.
It feels
destroyed
like
them.
They should, but then it seems like the second that adversity hits, right? Like we all talked about, they fell down 14-0 and they came back. That's good for program building. They're coming back from
against Charlotte. Fine.
Yes.
That's
and I think that we're in a business of overreacting to things. So next week or 2 weeks from now, they could go and beat Penn State and everything will be merry and jolly, right? But
Maybe.
Until that win happens, it's impossible to say that they've taken the step to even being in that conversation for a first-tier or even second-tier Big Ten team, which I know 2 weeks ago I was just saying about how if they had Iowa's schedule, they would have gone blank and blank. And I still think that Maryland is a good Big Ten team. They're at the upper level. But until you're able to win games that you're objectively supposed to, you can't declare Maryland to be at the cream of the crop of the Big Ten.
Maryland doesn't win games they're not expected to win.
No, and then that's fine. You want to be that type of program that you don't win games that you're not supposed to. There's plenty of teams like that. You have to win the games then that you are supposed to. And
when you're 14-point favorites.
When you're 14-point favorites, homecoming, like you have to win that game, and they didn't. And at the end of the day, that's not going to get it done. So I don't know what changes there are. They obviously have a bye week, and then they'll most likely get a win against Northwestern, who's terrible. But at a certain point, you have to call into question the type of mental fortitude that this team and this program really has lacking and is shown.
Absolutely.
There's just something about Talia where it's like he's just not in that upper level of QBs like a Drew Allard or a J.J. McCarthy, where it's just like you won't see him lead a massive comeback or you won't see him lead a game-winning drive and keep the team ahead. Like, it just seems like year after year, it's just something about him where he's not that top dog.
Yeah, I can't place a finger. I know. It's like it's so hard for me to describe, and I really thought about it a lot this weekend. What is it about Talia that because he's obviously probably the best quarterback or top 3 in program history, right? He's had all these accolades. He's obviously brought the program back, and I obviously, looking at it from an objective perspective, he's one of the top quarterbacks in the Big Ten.
He's a good statistical quarterback, sure.
But I don't know, and I mean you can't say either way. I don't know what he looks like on a top tier winning football team.
Yeah, if you put him on Georgia, who's to say? But
exactly, I don't know what he looks like. Does he still make? Because at the end of the day, playing to win is fine, but you also cannot make the devastating mistakes that they continuously make, and then you also have to build on it. This week he didn't make any big mistakes. He also didn't make any plays where you come to expect from Talia. And again, the offensive line was bad, like objectively bad. Illinois got
get D Gray out there.
Illinois got a first rounder on their defensive line in Newton, but they let up a ton of pressures in this game. I think the PFF metrics on it were pretty brutal. So it's a lack of cohesiveness that I saw this week that you really hope doesn't translate over to the rest of the season. Because I was stunned. I thought despite the loss in Ohio State, I thought they would come back and take care of business at home, and they didn't.
One thing I want to mention that I know Terps fans have been talking about in recent weeks, did Jack Howes play football before this year? Do we know if he kicked a football
That's your
before
brother,
this
isn't
season?
it?
He's doing a real disservice to my last name, I'll say that. His 53.8% field goal percentage is somehow only the third worst in the Big Ten for kickers with 2 or more attempts, but if anything is over 40 yards, I'd advise Maryland to just go for it. He's 4 for 9 right now on kicks that are 40-plus yards.
It's a whole program-wise problem, I think, and until they do something that really changes the narrative, at a certain point you just kind of have to call it what it is. And I think you have to acknowledge too the injuries. Obviously, Dante Trader out, Corey Dyches out, Tar Heap still out. That obviously doesn't help. They probably win the game if they have those players. But at a certain point, good teams build depth, and Maryland is not at that level of a program yet. So it's disappointing to watch, just as, you want to see good football.
I think the coolest part of that game, if we want to talk about a positive maybe, if we want to, Jay Sean Jones threw a pass.
We did. We saw.
I mean, come on.
Go Jay Sean.
We brought it up.
We were excited about that. I know. I was like, oh my God, he did it. And then I was like, maybe, this will be, and then.
I was hyped. And then they missed the opportunity to pull it out.
So.
And couple notes, Colby McDonald completely out of the running back rotation.
Yeah, I don't know what happened. He had a really good, strong start to that season.
And he played 5 snaps on Saturday, so it's clearly become a Littleton and Hemby backfield, which is kind of, I think, what we expected, but he had a good start. So interesting decisions all around. Maybe they can run him on 3rd and 8 in the next game and see what happens.
So my question for you guys is, do you think that they finish with a winning record in the Big Ten? They're 2-2 currently with 5 games left. Northwestern, Penn State, Nebraska, Michigan, and Rutgers. Before we said they would run it except for the big 3.
I didn't say that, actually.
I did. I still think they do.
I still
think that Rutgers game's on the road.
I believe so.
Yeah, they played at home.
I think they could easily lose.
They could lose to Rutgers.
Nebraska in Lincoln.
Nebraska's bad. But, I mean, it's possible. Who's to say? I would still predict that they're going to finish with 4 losses, but at a certain point, it's just a repeat of last year, right? Like the same exact thing happened. It's scripted because they lost all 3 games to their opponents last year, and then they lost to a mediocre Big Ten West team at home. And
yeah, definitely a point for a future episode. How will the future schedules help or hurt Maryland? It's something we can think about, but
hurt. I mean, yeah, it's a certain point, but it was a disappointing weekend, and it didn't just stop at football.
It was not a good weekend to be following Maryland sports.
Not a good weekend if you're a Terps fan. The men's soccer team, they drew against a ranked team in Michigan State, but boo.
What the final score won't tell you is that they're winning 2-0.
2-0 at halftime on a team that supposedly, the offense has really struggled. They obviously, came out strong in the first half against the Spartans, but
would have been Michigan State's first loss of the year.
And I mean, just brutal. I mean, you really cannot draw that game, especially in the position that Maryland's in. You have to win that game and steal one because of the losses you've had in Big Ten play. Brendan, I know it's obviously going into the game. If you told people, hey, they're going to draw against Michigan State, probably pleased, but we're not in the business of where you say things before the game. Obviously, the circumstances change. How not crushing's too strong of a word, but how brutal is it to blow the 2-0 lead?
It's tough, and if you look at when the goals were scored, right? So Maryland scored a minute into the game and then 16 minutes into the game. So having a very quick jumping at something Maryland hasn't done at all this entire year in Big Ten play is get up to a very early lead, scoring within the first minute. At that point, you go up 2 goals, going into halftime feeling confident. Just over time, Michigan State took over in that game, had all the momentum, and at some point, Maryland is lucky to come away with a tie. And so I agree going into the weekend, people would have been happy with a tie, but When you go up 2-0 that early, it's another deflating result.
Yeah, and now you probably have to beat Indiana if you're Maryland on Friday.
Against the second best team in the country. Not going to be easy. Just not going to be
easy, but it will be here at Ludwig. So the fans should be pretty raucous in there if I had to guess. It's a huge game. Indiana's very, very good. You think you have
team that sent home Maryland last year at home in the Big Ten tournament.
Yeah. Does this feel like a must-win, or is a draw work?
I think in terms of trying to make the Big Ten playoffs, I mean, they really need to run against Indiana and Ohio State. Otherwise, it's going to be tough.
Yeah.
So, yeah, absolutely. At this point in the season, with how many Big Ten wins? None. Yeah, you got to win it.
Yeah, it's going to have to take a pretty courageous effort at Ludwig on Friday. So it'll be interesting to see the results from that one. And we talked about soccer struggles. It's even worse on the women's side. 2 combined losses of a combined 8-0 score to Nebraska and Iowa.
Not good.
This team is falling apart.
What happened?
When was the last time they've scored?
I think still September. I mean, it's brutal at this point. It's been a month almost since their last goal. It's not getting better anytime soon, guys. Wisconsin on Thursday, who's 10-3-3, 5 wins in the conference, and then also Indiana on Sunday, who has 5 wins in the conference as well. What's the?
I mean, what can you say? They're probably going to lose those 2 games.
And
maybe Indiana last game of the year, nothing to lose, try everything.
But it's like,
but it's probably lost.
But at a certain point, nothing to lose. They've had nothing to lose. Like the offense is just.
They've only lost.
I don't know what it is. I really want to get Ryan Nemser on the phone and ask her: do you think it's scheme? Is it just your lack of talent? Like, why is it that you can't even put a ball in the net? I mean, I know that's like, but like, I'm not a soccer guy. Like, I'll call it heads up. I've tried to get more into the game since I've gotten here. Just because I've grown interest, and Maryland traditionally has a good soccer program, and I feel like I see bad teams run into goals. They're not even doing that. Like, what is it about the scheme, the players? Like, why is Maryland not scoring? I mean, is there any answer you saw in the 2 games? Because
it's the same old.
It's not bad. It's not bad. They're not even getting shots.
It's the same thing that's happened the past, every Big Ten game they've played.
It feels like we have the same Maryland women's soccer segment every week. Yeah.
Scored 9 goals the whole season. It's ugly.
I mean, it's just bad. Like, very, very bad. And they have solid talent. Kennedy Bell.
Another game against Iowa. 2 shots.
Yeah, Kennedy Bell is a stud. She's one of the best freshmen in the country. How can you not get her at least 1 goal, right? Like, I mean, I really don't get it. I want to ask. I want to start talking around the program, like writers, coaches. I want to get to know what is.
At a certain point, it's just it's hard to break out of the habits.
Yeah, like I think it's become the point now to where probably players are clearly thinking about it.
And there's not much you can do at this point in the season.
No, the season's over. I mean,
absolutely.
At a certain extent, like.
Maryland women's soccer team won 3 games in conference last year.
I mean, yeah, and we thought this was an upwards trajectory. We talked about.
They could have gotten 4 or 5 this year.
Yeah, we talked about teams regressing, right? Like we kind of knew heading in like the men's soccer team.
They lost tons of people. This team did not do that. They got tons of people.
We knew that like field hockey was going to kind of fall back a little. We thought women's soccer would be like they would take this jump, right? Like Nemser in her second year, bringing players back, bringing talent into the program, and it's regressed. I think it's shown that obviously progression is not linear, and so it's interesting.
You should have known when they tied American at the first game of the year it was going to be a long season.
We were hyping it up. Boy, were we wrong. But Mike, I'm not going to lie, Mike, you might have been wrong about this field hockey team because night in and night out, they just continue to win. I mean, and we talk a lot about, winning ugly, though the offense hasn't been great, blah, 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 blah.
It's a lot of nitpicky stuff.
At least they're winning.
Yes.
2 big wins over number 16 Michigan and number 9 Ohio State. The Ohio State game, I mean, they just clamped down on defense. Mm-hmm. What did you see from the defensive side? Well, I think the defense might be better than last year.
I'll tell you this. Maharg and her coaching staff have a gem in their freshman goalkeeper, Alyssa Klobosco. She had a combined 14 saves over those 2 games. Had a career-high 8 saves against Michigan when she faced a career-high a career-high 20 shots in that game. She is going to be a huge part of that team for years to come. And she has the best save percentage in the Big Ten. So you said that defense might be the best part of the team. I would have to agree with you. We brought up the offense's failures at times. The Terps were outshot in both of those games. But again, the defense...
When your defense is that good, it's like... I think they're just kind of playing the goal and then let's drop back and play possession type of deal. And
they have pieces on that offense. Hope Rose has the 4th most goals in the Big Ten. Margot Lawn has the 2nd most assists. Grad transfer Sammy Popper has 3 game-winning goals this season. So they have pieces and they can make it work. And this defense is playing incredibly right now. And they're going to have a test this upcoming weekend because they're going to face number 6 Iowa in College Park. So that's going to be a good Friday night game for them. They're also going to be facing Indiana, I believe, which is going to be a pretty easy game for them.
They should win that one. Iowa's going to be a huge game, though. It'll be interesting.
An even huger game is going to be their last regular season game next Thursday, Northwestern, who is currently ranked number 1. So they got 2 more tests this season heading into the Big Ten tournament. They're currently the 3rd team right now in the standings. You beat Northwestern, stuff can happen, the standings can change, so they have some tests ahead of them.
Yeah, and I think that it'll tell us a lot about this team, but I think they're clearly in that top class, top 10, top 5 team even. They're not probably going to win the Big Ten, but they're up there, so I think that that'll be interesting to see. Huge week ahead, huge week, and they got a big 2-0 weekend. Flip it around, and that's what you have for the volleyball squad, 0-2. But 2 home games this weekend, Illinois on Friday, Iowa on Saturday. Guys, I have a question to ask you because
those games are going to be 2-0. They're going to win both those, I think.
I would predict that as well. And somebody, I was watching a thing and I saw that to make the NCAA tournament in volleyball, most Big Ten teams get to 9 to 10 conference wins. Maryland currently sits at 3-5. They have 12 conference games remaining, so they have to win 7 games, okay? I'm going to read you guys the schedule, and I want you to tell me real quick, do we think they get it and get into the postseason for the first time under Adam Hughes?
I'll just predict the record. Just go right down it.
Okay, so ready? We're going to start.
Yep.
We're going to start with this game coming up October 20th against Illinois.
Win.
Okay, so that's 1. Iowa.
Win.
Nebraska.
Loss.
Absolutely no shot. Iowa on the road. Now that's kind of a flipperoo.
Win.
Okay, so 3-1. Michigan State on
Loss.
the road. 3-2. Michigan and Ann Arbor.
Win.
4-2. Wisconsin loss.
Loss. It has to be.
But it is at home, so 4-3. Ohio State home. That's I think that's
a big game. I'm gonna go win at home.
That's the pivot. Okay, so 5-3. Indiana on the road.
Loss.
5-4. Purdue on the road.
Loss.
Okay, so that would mean, Brendan, they would have to win the last 2 games of the year if stuff were to hold to make the postseason. Penn State and Rutgers at home.
I'm gonna go loss against Penn State, win against Rutgers.
So they would just narrowly miss out on the schedule to make the playoffs if certain things were to hold.
I would vote that they will miss it after looking at these Adam Hughes coaching stats earlier today.
Give me these stats you have, Mike, that you've so bravely calculated for us.
Right now, he has an out-of-conference record at 10-2, and they're 3-5 in the Big Ten. Pretty good out of conference, not so good in conference. That's been the theme for his whole career here at Maryland. Non-conference games, he's 38-10. In conference games, he's 33-67.
Yeah, not great.
So,
but
statistically, they're not going to make it.
To defend Adam Hughes,
that seat is hot. It's scorching.
To defend Adam Hughes, if they make it this year, I think that takes a lot of pressure off him, and I think that's why this is probably the most critical stretch of his coaching career, because it's toss upable. That's not a word, but it's very it's in the air, right? Because they could easily lose a couple of those games you predicted to win, and I think they could also easily win some of the games you said they would lose. And if they make the postseason,
and maybe they get another upset too, but
yeah, I think that would be a big step. But I would agree with you. I think they just narrowly miss it. But they should go 2-0 this week, and I think that would tell us a lot if they did go 2-0.
Yeah, I mean, 2 teams they should absolutely beat. Iowa 0-8 in conference play, and Illinois is 3-5.
Yeah, you need to win those 2. So Illinois is tied with Maryland in the Big Ten, but at home you expect the Terps to come down with that one. and it should be a winning week for them, which is like our boy Brendan. Did he have a winning week, Mike?
He was the only one who had a winning week.
Oh, wow.
And
He's on a heater.
God.
Is that 2 weeks in a row where you've had the best record?
I mean,
it
yeah.
Don't
is.
call him a comeback kid quite yet.
I predicted it.
I'll
I
tell you
almost-
that that push he had earlier in the season has risen him to second in the standings right now.
Are you kidding
The
me?
guy who's dropped all the way to the bottom.
Wow. And I should have gone 3-0. Colorado sucked.
Yeah, that was brutal.
We're
I know
all
you were watching that game. Like,
I was.
Come on, baby, let's go.
29-0. I turned that thing off, and
Ooh, yeah,
me
well,
and Dion were
and-
sad.
You and Prime were not in a prime relationship.
Oh, very
at
well
that
said.
point.
Uh,
Take
Give us
through.
a standings.
So Sam is at the top at 11-10, Brendan at 9-11-1, and me at 9-12. So
All right. Well, that
I
tie,
predicted it.
doing something.
I predicted it when
I'm
it
not gonna
happened. I was
lie.
like, that was going to be a big tie there.
Folks, I'm
I-
not gonna lie. This is a big week. Like Mike's got to get
It's a
back
make
on
or
track.
break. I
I
mean,
got to get back on track. If Brendan keeps up his hot streak, this might be the first time in Under the Shell history that
I'm
he's
not
gone-
in last.
He's gone all the way to the top. So we have to give you the honors. Take it away.
Last week, I made a statement about not picking crazy lines, but whatever. Washington is the team I like the most this year. They're my pick to win the national championship.
Wow.
So I'm going to take a minus 28.5 against Arizona State.
You like the Penix, man?
I think they're very good. I absolutely
That
do.
was an awesome game.
Against Oregon.
I think that was probably
Maybe the game of the year so
yeah,
far.
it's easily been the game of the year.
Next pick, North Texas plus 19 versus Tulane. And my final pick, probably people are saying, is the game of the week, Ohio State, Penn State. I'm going to take Ohio State minus 4.5.
Oh, you like that? Okay, interesting. I'm gonna kind of pull out a Brendan pick. I'm gonna go FIU minus 5.5 versus Sam Houston State. Interesting, or plus 5.5, not minus. Sorry, plus 5.5.
FIU plus 5.5?
Yeah, against
I'll allow
Houston State. And then with my second pick, I'm gonna like Marshall plus 3.5 versus James Madison. So I'm riding the Brendan wave of kind of picking obscure teams, but I like Marshall. They've been good all year. And then my last pick, I'm gonna take the under in the Ohio State Penn State game.
okay.
So I don't think that one's going to be very high scoring. I think both defenses are actually quite good. So I'll take the under in that.
The way you were trending, I thought you were about to pick the Salisbury game.
Slippery rock.
Shout out Salisbury and our Maryland schools draft
Shout
from
out.
last season.
I'm very excited for this draft to come back after football season.
Yes, sir. I mean, especially if he gets the win in football, and then he's not going to shut up about it. He's going to feel the confidence to go all out. All right, Mike, carry us out.
I'm going to go back with the mainstream schools theme. I'm going to go Iowa minus 5.
Funnily enough, quick pause.
I almost picked that.
Did you guys know that is the third lowest point total spread ever? Guess what the point total is?
Over under, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
What do you think
It's
it
like
is?
31, right?
That
Yeah,
right on the money.
yeah.
31. And I'd still slam the under.
I think that's one of those games that's a 2-3 final score.
All right, Mike, sorry. Keep going.
Iowa's covered the spread in those teams' last 5 matchups. Next up, Utah, USC, over 56. Kind of a rivalry in recent years with Caleb Williams there. And it's also hit the over the past 3 years, and this is the lowest over the past 2 years between
like
those
that.
two.
Wow, you're just statting everything,
Yeah,
Mike.
I might take that on my card.
And then last, I'm going to go Oklahoma, favored by 18 points at home versus UCF. Oklahoma is 6-0 against the spread this year, while UCF is 2-4, and the game will be in Norman.
Real quick, since Maryland's not
Mike might go 0-3. I don't like any of this. I'm just kidding.
real quick, since Maryland's not, I think like the game of the week, Penn State, Ohio State. Who do you think kind of takes reign in the Big Ten East? Who do you think wins?
Oh, I think Ohio State wins. They bullied that matchup.
Mike?
I think this is Penn State's year. Penn State.
Wow. Okay, I take Ohio State in a nail biter. So we got.
I take Ohio State probably. I don't know. If I
There's
got
got to be someone. There's got to be someone deflecting from the group. You know, I gotta
I
take.
think
I
Penn
gotta take
State's
them.
a good upset
Yeah.
pick this week.
I mean, it's a very sad week for me in football.
Yeah.
Maryland and UMass on a bye. What am I going to do?
and the Patriots are horrible.
What's not going to be sad is when we hear from your terrific Terp this
Who is
week.
a football guy? So take
Big
us away.
football guy. All right, let's do it. When you hear about the Maryland football teams of the early 2000s, you often hear about Steve Suter, Scott McBrien, Dominique Foxworth.
Friend of the pod.
Absolutely. But the 2002 team had 10 people who would eventually make their way into the NFL. Yet only one person in Maryland football history has ever been a 2-time consensus first-team All-American. That person is this week's terrific Terp, linebacker E.J. Henderson. Henderson grew up in Aberdeen, Maryland. He excelled and elevated on every football team he was a part of. At Maryland, he was a force to be reckoned with on the defensive side of the ball. He has the NCAA record for career total season unassisted tackles with 135, which came in 2002, and that same season, career solo tackles per game, also an NCAA record with 8.8. He's truly all over the field in College Park. He also has the most career tackles for a loss with 62.5 in Maryland history and holds a single season record with 28 in 2001. He also has the most tackles with 473 in Terrapin history. It's a hell of a lot of Maryland records. Stats like this led him to be the College Defensive Player of the Year in 2002, wow. ACC Player of the Year in 2001, ACC Defensive Player of the Year in 2001 and 2002. All that incredible play got Henderson drafted in the second round of the 2003 NFL Draft to the Minnesota Vikings, where he played his entire 9-year career. Henderson's brother, who was also a Terp football alumnus, the two of them did not overlap in college, but they teamed up in 2008 on the Vikings.
Oh, good for them.
In 2009, Henderson suffered a broken femur, but he felt that he still had more left to prove. He made a full recovery. In his final NFL season, he made the 2011 Pro Bowl. After he stopped playing football, he kept it in his life and became the youth football manager for the Vikings in 2016. He was the 7th Maryland football player to enter the College Football Hall of Fame.
Wow. And if you look at, I've never heard of this guy until I just looked his image up. Look at the old school linebacker neck roll this guy used to wear. I mean, that's just a dog back in the day. And that's what we love about Terrific Terp, getting those type of throwbacks. And it was a great episode.
I mean, I'd heard the name, but I did not realize he was that good until I started researching.
What a stud. And we had a couple of football studs we talked about. D. Gray, obviously, thank you for coming on.
Shout out D. Gray.
And shout out EJ Henderson.
Shout out Protect the Shell Pod.
Protect the Shell.
And shout out Under the Shell, where you can find us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and Twitter, all at that name. And also, buy our merch. New store up. We got shirts available on there for you, so if you want to get some shirt. I've been getting some ribbing because people have been saying we're overcharging for it. We make no profit from that shirt. I just wanted to let it be known. So if you want to support the podcast, you can find us there, but mostly support us by listening, follow the pod, all that type of good stuff. No football this weekend, so you don't have to watch Maryland lose potentially. So enjoy your weekend. Enjoy your fall season, kind of get into swing, and listen to the show.
Guess what? You've got Under the Shell Podcast. Nobody does it better.